What's up, you guys, and welcome to a very long video. So please join me as I go through the process of changing into something fantastical. Let me preface by saying I am not a professional. This is just how I put on body paint with methods that work for me. Step 1. Preparation and hydration. Being properly hydrated keeps the body paint from drying out my skin and adding in undue wrinkles. To keep myself from looking too much like a shriveled raisin, I try and drink enough water to properly hydrate myself in the week preceding painting day. I will sometimes use hydrating eye masks the night before, and I will add moisturizer about 20 minutes before I start painting to give it time to soak in, especially around my eyes, as that's where I have the most trouble with wrinkles. To prepare for paint, tie back your hair with a headband, or in my case, a wig cap, as I will be wearing a wig. If you plan on wearing contacts, now is when most people would put them in, as to not chance ruining the makeup later. But my contacts obscure my vision, so I'm gonna just have to be extra careful. I also use a wig grip, so everything stays in place. Also remove any jewelry just to get it out of the way. Step 2. Painting. I am using Mehron Paradise water-activated body paints. I have a multicolor palette, but they also come in individual colors which are much larger. I will also be using an old makeup blending sponge, which my daughter bit in half, a cup of water, and an old contour brush that I only use for body paints. I put the brush into the cup of water and fully saturate it. Wipe off any excess so it doesn't drip all over, but it needs to be very wet. Pick out your base color, my daughter picked pink, and heavily load your brush with paint. Very heavily. Not having enough paint or having paint too thinned out with water will lead to streaking. Here I am pushing back my wig cap so I can get the paint up into my hairline. At this point, I just go for it. I work fast to cover as much of my face as I can before it starts to dry, and I don't paint directly over my eyes, but I do get pretty close. I have found it's easier to apply evenly if I paint in a sort of X motion. I reload my brush when necessary with a little water and another heavy load of paint. Getting every nook and cranny is important. Nose holes, curves of the ears. Cover up any and all exposed skin that will be showing. This includes the neck, behind the ears, your chest, back, shoulders. If you're already wearing parts of your costume, you can lightly trace the edges with the paint. I crawl out of my shirt some so I can paint more freely without getting any on my clothes. If you do have to add more paint to somewhere that's a little thin, let it fully dry before adding another layer, and don't go over it too many times or it will start pulling up the dried layers. This is the main reason loading your brush with enough paint the first time is so important. It gets harder and harder to fix later. Step 3. Highlight and contour. The base layer gives us our color, but it's very flat looking. Real skin has shadows, brightness, and depth, and by adding in contour and highlights, we can get a more realistic look to our paint. I am mixing the base color with white to lighten it, and using the soggy sponge to pick up the lightened body paint and applying it to where I want my face to be brighter. I use this as a guide, brightening up the center of my face and high cheekbones. Keep dabbing the paint to blend it out. You still want to use a lot of paint, but I use just the dampness of the sponge. I don't add any more water. You want to use the same method for your neck and anywhere else you have painted. Shoulder tops, collarbone, the tops of the breast, the lines of the neck. For the contour and shadow, you want a darker or complementary color. I'm using this darker pink, but this can also be achieved with eyeshadows. I just have very little pink eyeshadow left. I place this color in the hollows of my cheeks to lift my cheekbones. Under my nose and just slightly on the tip to lift my nose up a little. Under my bottom lip to make my lips look bigger, and at my temples, as well as around my hairline where the shadow of my hair would be. Contour is one of those makeup tricks that can totally change the shape of your face with enough skill. I use this reference to gently sculpt my face, but I also use it as a guide for what best complements my face. Contour was probably one of the bigger learning curves I've had to overcome when doing makeup, but really it just takes practice. Again, I extend the shadows down to everywhere I have the base paint, especially under my chin and jawline to better define my jaw and neck. I also shadow in around my collarbone, both on top and below, and extend that up my neck. I also add shadows to where I would have cleavage, to make it appear as if it was there. Using the original base color, I go back through and blend all the shadows and highlights in evenly, trying to make it look as natural as possible. I also go back through with the highlight color to better accentuate my cheekbones and nose. To set everything and keep them from smudging, I use a translucent setting powder and a setting spray. Generally, powder sets liquid and spray sets powder. To set all of the paint really well, I apply a generous mist of the setting spray and let it dry completely. I then use a big fluffy brush to cover everything in a generous sprinkling of setting powder. Step 4. Details. No one's skin is perfect. Adding in freckles, scars, or little veins can give the paint a whole new life. Using a fine-tipped paintbrush, I hand dot on freckles using the same color I use for the contour. I add the freckles along the highlighted parts of my nose, cheekbones, and down on my collarbone. You can also add smaller freckles by flicking the bristles of a larger brush at your face, but you have much less control about their placement. Using a fluffy blending brush, I take some pink eyeshadow and add some more detailed shadows. Down from my eyebrow along my nose to make my nose look a little smaller and more pointed. In the crease of my eyes, where shadow naturally sits anyway. Then down my neck and collarbone to better define and detail the shadows and highlights that are already there. And for the most part, this is all that's needed to get your skin to be an unnatural color for your character. These methods work for any set of colors: pink, blue, green, purple. Lots of color combinations can work, and it really just depends on what you think looks nice. There is, however, always makeup to add. Part 5. Makeup. So now that we have our base skin, I'm adding a white foundation to my eyelids so that the eyeshadow has something to stick to. I blend it out a little bit along my eyelid and at the inner corner of my eye. The goal is to have a white base so whatever colors I use will be more vivid. I decided on a pearly white shimmer and apply it all over my eyelid and the inner corner of my eye. After that is successfully smeared all over the place, I make the other eye match. Using a blending or eyeshadow brush would probably have been easier, but I feel like the pigments stick better when I use my finger. There is the brush I mentioned. Taking a little of the pink eyeshadow I used for the detailed contour, I clean up the smudged white of the eyeshadow. With a kind of pointy brush, I'm now taking a purple and sweeping it into the outer corner and crease of my eye. I am also lightly drawing the purple where I plan to draw my eyeliner. Now using the fluffy blending brush, I am packing more purple into the outer corner and blending it out. I just want the purple to be more dramatic, and I felt there wasn't enough. Still not happy with the depth, I add some black. And then more purple. And then some more white to clean up the center of my eye. Now that the eyeshadow is done, I use some setting spray to keep it in place. Now to finish up the eyes, I use some liquid liner to give myself some long wings and point the inner corner of my eyes. I feel like it makes my eyes look bigger and otherworldly. Finally, some mascara, and if I had them on hand, some false eyelashes. One thing I neglected for years was my eyebrows. darkening them I feel really defines my face. I should have used a purple to match my wig, but the pink looks fine also. Look, actual highlighter to further highlight the highlights. This is a purple iridescent color that makes me glitter in the sunlight. I apply it everywhere I applied the highlight color on my everything. Not quite satisfied with the amount of highlight sparkle, I add some more with my finger. Because I let my 6-year-old pick my makeup, I have to add extra glitter. This is just a purple glitter eyeshadow I add on top of my eyelids. Finally, lipstick. I picked out a neutral pink considering how busy and colorful I look in general. I didn't feel the need to do anything too bold. I wasn't very happy with the color, so I added some of the highlighter, some pink eyeshadow, and finally just chapstick to kind of blend everything together. And that's just about it. I crawl back into my shirt, put on my wig and a few accessories, and I am done and ready to go. One last thing, contacts. Just make sure your fingers are very dry when you put them in, and you shouldn't ruin the makeup. That is the finished look, a pink sparkle unicorn princess, or whatever your imagination can create. Happy crafting!